Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to be alive and a great day to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Anyeka, and I am delighted to be here at spectrumtv.ng. Let's spread the word. Let's make more people get to know Spectrum. Let's engage on the conversations that we have on Rise and Shine and every other program that you enjoy coming to you from Spectrum Television. Of course, in the course of this program, our phone lines will be displayed on your TV screen. Feel free to call in, send in WhatsApp.
Wednesday, the midweek edition of Rise and Shine, and we're super delighted to have you join us again. It's always a pleasure knowing that Nigerians will be looking out for Rise and Shine show. My name is Janice Cobham. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, Uyai. And a lot of things have happened in the last 24 hours. I was just going through some news bits now, and I see that Nigerian students in Sudan have actually packed their things already. We are going to take you out of Sudan, either through Egypt, or I think there was another route that was earlier, recently scheduled, which is through Cairo. Because of what is happening there, there's supposed to be a 72-hour ceasefire in Sudan, but we don't know how true or how possible that will be. But it's quite a sad situation for Nigerians in war-torn Sudan as we speak.
The 72-hour window has actually still been greeted with bits and pieces of fire here and there, but then it's relatively more peaceful than when the fire ammunitions were flying every now and then. But then again, the federal government had said that they have communicated the route which every person is going to be evacuated from Sudan. So maybe with regards to the video of the clustering students, maybe they were just clustering in their the centers where they have been given, because it's expected that from today they would be able to move them back home, and that's a lot of hope. And the need combos and even
The Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, they've been working really hard, and we must commend them for that. So between today and tomorrow, we are sure of hearing good news about Nigerians getting back. But then more concern will now be for the government and the people of Sudan. Hopefully that the negotiations that they have within the 72-hour window can actually bring an end to the crisis that is gearing up in the nation. It's not good for the people oftentimes, and we just hope that the two rivals. The funny thing with this particular Sudan situation is that the two army lords that are fighting were once allies. They worked together to put together coups to overthrow other people. But now, who is going to be the next leader if RSF is put together with the National Army is the problem, and why they're fighting in the country. Making foreigners to flee their nation. Sudanese are looking for ways to escape to places that are less hit by the crisis. So it's just a lot of problem. It's literally a matter that can be discussed between two persons. Okay, I go first, you come next. Or just the fact that you have access to be the one giving the directives for the firearms to be used. I think this is just one of the clear cases why we're seeing this is a thoughtless crisis.
Yeah, that's very thoughtless. Yes. And to understand that they were once allies. They worked together to form a coup that overthrew a government that was there for 3 days, putting the nation first, not as priority, right? Instead,
their ambition is more important to them, and they're wasting the nation as a result of their personal ambition. So
it's really terrible. It's really terrible. But let's bring you some flash stories around the country, and we are rather going to be starting on a worrisome note, Uyai. Benue records 18,000 IDPs, internally displaced persons, in the month of April alone. Now, to give perspective to that, no fewer than 18,000 people were displaced this month following the recent attacks on some communities in Benue State. The Executive Secretary, State Emergency and Management Agency, SEMA, Emmanuel Shio, disclosed this yesterday during the distribution of relief materials to some internally displaced persons in the state. Of course, when we take our minds back, we remember that some communities in Akpa, Otukpo, and Guma local government areas were attacked by suspected herdsmen and armed leaders between April 5th and 9th, 2023, leading to the loss of 135 lives. It's good that we even came from the background of what is happening in Sudan. Now we are having 18,000 internally displaced persons in the month of April.
A spate of insecurity around the country, and one is wondering what exactly happened. Now, the crisis that has given birth to 18,000 displaced persons only in Benue in 1 month, occurred between April 5th and April 9th. And then we've already lost 135 persons. And, you just continue to wonder what exactly is happening. What are the new triggers that have been found just after the elections? And this is happening. If in 1 month 18,000 persons can be displaced in one state, and we had to create different IDP camps to be able to accommodate this. Of course, this particular information is coming on the slate that relief materials had to be given to these 18,000 persons. We're talking about women, we're talking about children who should be resuming school this week, and a lot of things. And let's not even forget that most of the places used for IDP camps are usually like schools. So you're looking at the fact that even children in the host communities for the IDP camps will not go to school because those places have been taken over by government. But so looking at lots of the fact that, there are reports being made to the federal government and to the defense agencies in our country as to how things can be done differently so that we abate some of why are herders and farmers consistently fighting. You bring your cow, I have my vegetable in my farm, allow me to farm. Sometimes these are like, we have to even take a step backward. What does history tell us about conflict resolution? Because these kinds of things usually happened in the days of our forebears. When things were happening, we usually would have elders in these different tribes and these different communities sit down and rationalize why a herder cannot cross into this part of the land, to do certain things. It looks like as we move, further into modernization and civilization, we begin to lose a grasp of how, conflicts should be resolved.
Even our values, because when we talk about herders and farmers, we even take our minds back to when we were younger children, right? You see herders take their cows, their cattle, they are grazing them on open fields and not necessarily people's farms.
Exactly.
So when it becomes a problem where, or rather a situation where herders will not even put into consideration the efforts of these farmers, and you take your cows into the farmland of a farmer and destroy the whole farm, and then you feel that it is right, a right thing to do. It's not a right thing to do. So in that law or that bill, but some governors actually did, where the permission for herders to access any state and any land, for grazing purposes and all of that. But I think that this issue should be revisited by the federal government. Let us see, let there be a clear-cut dichotomy. This is where you can graze and get to. And after here, you cannot graze further. I think that's bringing your cows or your cattle to destroy the farms. And we are talking about high cost of living. We are talking about high cost of food in our market, production and everything, right? We are even talking about consuming our Nigerian own made goods. We are looking at a situation where even the borders are closed at this point in time. So there's no importation anymore. Right? So why are we even destroying the ones that we are trying to produce? Look at rice. And these are more like staple foods that a normal Nigerian family feeds on. They'll tell you in our local parlance, like jokingly, Gary has been saving lives since 1900, right? Now you buy 1 cup of Gary for 100 naira, times how many members of your family that you have, how far can you go? Yet the little that we are producing is being destroyed by herders. It doesn't make sense.
It's for me, I feel like the first concentration to solve this particular issue should be from, religious and communal heads before you even say that the federal government will come into place, because the communal head of the headland. So sometimes in our attempt to solve this problem, we skip the preliminary phases of conflict resolution. What is really the agitation between the herders and the farmers? That conversation should take place between the federal government and their heads. What can you tell your headers, to do differently? These people actually listen to someone. It's not like they're able to have our farmers get to the farms and bring out the amount of production that can save the state in terms of food and all the likes. And let's not even forget, in Nigeria, in some states, we have very large arable lands in some places. Why not concentrate on those places? And you were talking about the anti-grain, but these are the areas you can graze, and these are the places you must not go. Because sometimes, even in our city, you see them carrying, these cows and crossing city centers. How is this happening in a place that is a civil city? So there's a lot of we can do as we please in this country, and someone is giving them the impetus to really do that. But then let's move on to the very next flash story that we have. Yesterday, the World Malaria Day was celebrated, and about 2 weeks ago, we began to celebrate the fact that for the first time, Ghana is the first country to come up with a malaria vaccine. WHO and all the other necessary agencies are beginning to give a stamp to, yes, this vaccine is. And now we see that the federal government has said that the AS01 malaria vaccine is expected to be in the country by April 2024. The Minister of Health, Dr. Sage Hanire, who spoke AS01 malaria vaccine in the third application window for the vaccine, which ended April 18, 2023. Now, the World Malaria Day is celebrated on April 25th every year to highlight the need for continued investment and sustained political commitment to malaria prevention and control. Of course, this is a major thing that we know kills people a lot. There was a particular medication that we took to handle malaria, and it looks like over time that particular medication has been phased off because there's been quite a development in how malaria is being handled. But the news of the coming of the vaccine was such great news, and it was also great to see that Nigeria jumped on it immediately. So within the next 1 year, we are expecting that our children between
that subsequently we've had conversations along the lines of trying to eradicate malaria. And one question I asked to solve the malaria problem. So this is quite a very heartwarming news, that there's going to be a malaria, but a lot of children have died because of malaria, and all of that. But it's good that we see that these things are happening. It shows that there's just an how do I put it now, evolving our medical
research
system
is evolving and all that.
Bringing up this kinds of vaccines for Nigerians. And I'm also happy that the Nigerian government has hopped on it, and we are going to be seeing how this spans out in the next couple of months, because it's months, so it's not even years anymore. 2024 is just around the corner here. But I think we'll have more conversations going to be preserved and all of that. We hope that there's not going to be politicizing of the vaccine, the regions this morning. The very first story we are going to be looking at, of course, we remember that yesterday, on Monday evening, we saw the president-elect, Bola Asiwaju, hit the country again after several days in France and London, taking rest and all of that. And of course, his coming back was great of Senator Godswill Akpabio and his other colleagues, paying him a courtesy visit. And we all know that, this visit could also be linked with, the
lobbying.
Exactly. The lobby for the Senate speakership and leadership and all of that. But of course, we saw Senate Minority Leader, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and of course, APC Chieftain Yusuf, all in Abuja, and Nigerian Senate Minority Leader Godswill Akpabio again met the national leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Akpabio, and you can see how happy I would say they were in this particular sitting. But I know that a lot of people have also said that this is definitely unconnected with the National Assembly leadership tussle, that is ongoing as we speak.
Well, we cannot necessarily attempt to tear all of that conversation about. For instance, Tinubu being in the country, we know that he's going to start getting into a lot of meetings with the necessary people. He had already even said there was going to be a convener matter that is up for like speculation. Was this related? And then even if they were meeting over tea, I mean, these men are politicians. There's always going to be, I can throw in my, my thoughts about a particular issue in the country. On the presidency, it's not something that is open to the votes of everybody. So first of all, what runs you aground for the particular state is the number of people you've been able to get on your side when that election is going to be doing themselves to dance around Tinubu at this time. Now it's also going to be within the prerogative of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the president-elect, to decide, okay, who's the best man to work with in terms of, okay, I can give my strength to the backing of this person. But now I would even say that it's beautiful to see Akpabio's face being given to a lobby.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say that.
Yeah, before now,
the first time seeing
it's been like speculation. So now we know that, okay, Akpabio made Tinubu, even if it was just to go say welcome to the country. Back. Or we know that we can now attach, a face of Senator Godswill Obote Akpabio to the race for the Senate presidency. Whether or not these meetings were related, we will hear in the course of time.
Yeah, definitely. Tinubu. I like the fact that once again, there's a lot of activities ongoing at this moment, showing that yes, governance has actually started and all of that, and as well. Okay, so another major story that we have this morning, quite a sad one, I must say, and this is happening in Cross River State. Now, we know that we have sweepers in the narrative is beginning to change a whole lot, and it's quite saddening that those that have been mandated to keep the state clean are even being owed salaries up until several months and several years. Now let's take a look at this. Cross River street sweepers protested 4 months unpaid salaries, barricaded the governor's office with refuse. Now, cross-section of protesting sweepers in Cross River State, hundreds of ad hoc workers and staff who sweep the roads for the Calabar Urban Development Authority (CUDA) stormed the streets of Calabar protesting from to Murtala Muhammad Highway and ended up in front of governors at Leopard Road. Now, the women, who are paid only between 5,000 and 10,000 naira per month, say they have been owed for months and express dismay at the way and manner the government has been treating them with disdain. Most of them said they are widows with children who depend on the token given to them for survival, still sweep the streets daily, yet have nothing to show for it. Now, yeah, this is quite a sad story. Now, I know also that, the issue of the sweepers in Cross River State and working for CUDA as well, which is the Calabar Urban Development Authority. They are the ones rightly in charge of what is going on in terms of, taking care of the welfare of these women, in terms of their pay and all of that. These women have constantly kept the streets of Calabar clean. We are not even looking at the hazards they go through. They wake up as early as 4 a.m. in the morning. They are on the road. Does the government even provide reflective vests for them to use when they go to sweep, because know that somebody is there? So they even go through those issues of accident, car hitting and running, right? And they are being paid as little as 5,000 and 10,000 naira, and the government is owing them for 4 months. Now, some people have also complained that even from 2022, their salaries have not been paid. Now, how does politicians and how does government sleep at night is one question I keep asking. Knowing fully well that you have not paid these people, and yet you close your eyes to sleep. And the government is going to be wrapping up in a few days from now, because it's no longer months, but in a few days or a few weeks from now. Now, it could also mean that has happened to these monies is a big question.
That's a very big question to ask, because if I remember from 2022 last year, This same said Cross River street sweepers were also protesting that the salaries were not being paid. Streets. How many hours does it take for you to do that? And how you being paid 5,000 naira a month to get it done? And even if you said, okay, we agreed because we do not have revenue in the state, let's pay you 5,000. How is 5,000 naira hard to pay? Most of these politicians drink 1,000,000 naira in a night. You know, they spend on their lust and other frivolities without even thinking, you know, breakfast fee. Why don't you pay another person to use it and take care of the family? It just continues to show us that the people that are saddled with the responsibility of public offices, most of them have no businesses being there. When you are in a public office, you are the minder of the people and the minder of what we go put it in, you know, certain kinds of bonds and treasuries to yield benefits, interest for them. And so maybe, like you said, the state government might have paid this money. Someone and some people sit down to collaborate. They take the money, put it in some investments that will yield in 6 months. And then in 6 months, they keep owing these people. In 6 months, when it yields, they would bring out the few days. The Ben Ayade administration is going to be closing. As we continue to ask, who is going to...
I think that's why a lot of governors, you know, will be hard bent on bringing... That's why. But in any way, let's take a listen to what these women have to say about the protest.
People back are waiting be on our complaint. 215 and they okay. You said 215. 215 they owe 6 months salary like me. Me I there with sickness. See. If they worry me, they pay me. So I need money to go hospital. The thing they pay me be like it won't kill me. Okay. Food for house, you know there. I need that money. Okay. The una oga for the office where una dey. Una don't talk to her.
We know there. We don't go commissioner office. Commissioner say no be him call us.
Say na contractor.
But we don't know the
say no go house money. No we go find the people when they employ us want to come and pay us. He don't know us. Na supervisor. We come meet commissioner. Commissioner say no be him all our money.
Say it's a
so we ask am say no be him employ us. Who employ us to come and work? We know you. We don't know anybody. Even as he come here now, he come complain the same thing. He don't give us and run and go. Tell us to go.
Okay, as he tell una to go, he talk say person go come back.
He don't talk
anything.
Now, as it does a we did the road. People when they do record with the that of our supervisor, them they sweep.
Then they pay them.
Then they pay them.
Taking people.
But our own we don't see that my husband died leave me only 5 children. I put them for school.
Okay, you na sweeper.
Yes.
Okay, so sweeper different, raker sweeper.
Yes.
Okay, so now they pay rakers but they no pay sweepers.
Then they pay 15. Us here 10,000. That 10,000 there, I say we got the first time for because of 6 months salary. I say we they come, when they come put horse takers. Me at the time even as a Friday, then they pay others. Before we reach there, they come put horse takers for us again. Where our women fall down, we wonder. Now only that army way there for that side, they help that woman.
Okay, when they put tear gas
yes.
from my eyes.
We don't even because we us here we don't know say that the way they remember to end south.
Actually a story that is telling itself, and you know that saying there's another sector, people that take care of the streets, you know, the rakers, those ones are being paid, but the sweepers are not being paid. The state governor did not hear that they were outside the gate.
That's another thing.
You know, it's just we are too aloof as a people in our country.
Yeah, it's quite worrisome. But I think we will all Cross River State. A lot of protests seems to be brewing in Cross River State recently. Not just the sweepers, but there are also other protests brewing in Cross River State. At this point, we take a breather and we join Mary Joseph. We're standing by for the news brief. And when we come back, trust us, a lot more will be on Rise and Shine Daily. Just stay with us.
as of state and government, Secretary General is to present the delegates.
Disasters being Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 45 seats still counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. We begin this morning with the report that the President Muhammadu Buhari has sent condolences to the family of one of Nigeria's celebrated columnists. Describes Enhanuru as a gifted and iconic journalist, author and publisher, adding that Enhanuru earned the public trust by his fearless writing, tenacity and commitment to the pursuit of truth. Away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has obtained an order to retrieve all documents it tendered as exhibits in the 4.6 billion naira money laundering trial of the former Minister of Aviation, Femi Fani-Kayode. The EFCC obtained the order from Justice Daniel Osaigo. The federal government will today commence the evacuation of about 5,500 Nigerians, including students stranded in Khartoum and other cities in Sudan. To facilitate the repatriation, the government has released 150 million naira for hiring 40 buses to convey its desperate citizens from Sudan to Cairo in Egypt. On the foreign scene, Singapore on Wednesday hanged a prisoner convicted of conspiracy to smuggle 1 kilogram of cannabis. Authorities said ignoring international calls for Singapore to urgently reconsider the hanging and calls by British tycoon Richard Branson to halt it. And finally, in sports, Barcelona FC have finally secured funding to regenerate their Camp Nou stadium has taken place. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
As of state and government, Secretary General is to present the delegates.
Disasters being Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 45 seats still counting.
Malaria, a silent killer, destroying dreams and limiting many people. In a bid to eradicate malaria, the world commemorates Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease and examine efforts towards the prevention, elimination, and control of the disease. This year, 2023, the World Malaria Day theme is Time to Deliver Zero Malaria, Invest, Innovate, Implement. It is a call. We spoke to experts who shared their expertise on causes, effect, and preventive measures ahead of the World Malaria Day.
The world commemorates World Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease, as well as examine efforts towards control, prevention, and elimination of the disease.
Malaria is an infection caused by a parasite, the Plasmodium. Commonly around us is the Plasmodium species, but there are many species, but in Africa, in Nigeria, the commonest species is Plasmodium falciparum.
Malaria is actually a sickness caused by a parasite, mosquito parasite mostly. If you've been bitten by a mosquito continuously, you will definitely come down with malaria.
Primarily, it's caused by a vector. It's carried by mosquito, and then when you have mosquito bite, Plasmodium is introduced to you, and then Plasmodium. And where can you find the Plasmodium? The Plasmodium could only be found or harbored by a female Anopheles mosquito.
Simply put, malaria is a disease that is associated with a vector transmission of the female Anopheles mosquito, and mostly comes down with some symptoms of fever, chills, shivering, headache, loss of appetite, and more.
People treat malaria in different ways. Some do self-medication, others go herbal, while some visit the hospital. The twist here is, with the level of treatment, malaria is still a major public health challenge in Nigeria, despite substantial efforts to reduce the prevalence and impact of the disease. Spectrum TV.
Going for tests, but we've seen this Nigeria. It's only when the disease starts that's when you go for tests. You can't just go for tests when you don't have when nothing is wrong with you.
Countless times I've had malaria, and I believe in medicals, hospital. I don't really believe in all these traditional works. I don't believe in them because they don't work for me. People have different ways of belief, but for me, I treated my own through using the prescribed malaria drug.
I normally have malaria. Normally, for malaria, it depends on people's immunity. That can determine how often someone will have malaria. But for me, I think I treat malaria once every 3 months. Sometimes because of environment and the mosquito around. Yeah.
We complain of the Anopheles mosquito being the primary cause of malaria. However, how well do we take care of our surroundings to prevent malaria?
For me, I take preventive measure, like my house. I use mosquito nets, and I also have insecticides, mosquito repellents. Yeah, that I use all the time. So I make sure it doesn't happen. But most of this time, this thing.